Hello and welcome to the Old Man Orange Podcast. I'm Spencer Scott Holmes.
And Josh.
And we decided to go back to 1942. A great year in pirate films. And with this one, we have The Black Swan. Not to be confused with Black Swan with, what's her name in it?
With that dame, Natalie Portman, my friend.
The Natalie Portman one. Yes. No, not that Black Swan. Not a remake of it. Not even a prequel one or anything like that. No, this is Black Swan, the pirate film from back in ye olden days with Tyrone Power, which I always think of that dude is because he played Zorro in Mark of Zorro. So if you ever want to see Bruce Wayne's parents get killed, that's mostly the movie Bruce Wayne's dragging his parents to that they didn't want to see in the first place. You know?
That fucker.
Unless it's a really early version of Batman, like a 1940s comic, he's probably dragging his parents to see the silent version with Douglas Fairbanks, but
right.
Because people used to think that, like, you know, they always say nowadays, like, well, they just remake movies all the time. Like, well, they've always done that. They've literally done that since the dawn of time.
And how did Bruce get scared during Mark of Zorro? Let's be honest.
Yeah, what was he getting scared by there, you know?
Come on, Bruce. He should feel guilty. I'm just gonna call a spade. He kind of got his parents killed.
Yeah, it's not like he went to see like the Hunchback of Notre Dame or something, like, you know, or Frankenstein, or it's like, yeah,
Creature from the Black Lagoon or some shit.
No, he's seeing a Zorro movie. I don't even think there's a part in any of those Zorro movies where it's like, there's even like a jump scare.
Right. You know what? Kind of jumping into the flick and thinking of Zorro, because it's kind of, you know, that's like a good segue, because that's one thing I was surprised about. You know, we just went from 1940s samurai flicks where, you know, we sit there and jerk off the cinematography and like the fight choreography with, you know, some good old classic samurai action. I was actually surprised. I thought I was going to be like, this is stupid when they start sword fighting. But, you know, it wasn't terrible.
No, well, that's the thing, because I kind of wanted that too. I'm like, I wonder what Josh is going to think about this movie the whole time I was kind of watching it. I'm like, is this too old? And like, did I go too far back with him and so on? But what I've kind of learned is like, the thing is about like these like 30s and 40s pirate movies is swordplay is really kind of dialed in, and like people, I mean, that's the thing, is to be an actor back
for the time, it's great.
Yeah, well, the thing too is weird. You watch movies like nowadays, and like sword scenes are mostly kind of crappy in them because they'll like swing once and then they'll cut to something else, and
right. They do the Jason Bourne style of like action fight choreography, which I fucking can't stand.
Yeah, so you don't have to be very good because they'll just cut away to it, which this one's got some pretty good sword stuff in it, but there's some other movies like when I think of like the Robin Hood with Errol Flynn. And when he's fighting Basil Rathbone and they're going up the stairs and everything like that, and they have long cuts. Right. I think that's what makes it so cool, is that like the sword scenes, it's like, yeah, you have to have this choreography down. You can't just swing once or twice and then they'll just go to another shot. Like, no, there's like the practice there. Or even speaking of Mark of Zorro, because Mark of Zorro has a great sword fight at the end that has, once again, Tyrone Power that's in this movie, and Basil Rathbone's also the bad guy in that one too, because that's all Basil Rathbone is until he gets to be Sherlock Holmes.
Right. No, I was pleasantly surprised. And, you know, I was also genuinely surprised because, you know, the beginning, I'm like, oh, hey, look, it's fucking Pirates of the Caribbean. You know, the ride, the OG ride. Like, that was the vibe. And it was kind of silly, kind of campy. Or not campy, but it like kind of felt dated, right? All the way up to where, you know, old Jamie boy is on the rack being tortured. And his, like, I guess, like, his number one, like, henchman, because he's, like, number two for Captain Morgan. And Morgan's, like, fleet of privateers fucking up the Spanish Armada. His number two is, like, the quintessential pirate. Like, you know what I mean? Like, he is the most, like, I think he must be the prototype. You know, and I don't have a whole lot of knowledge of pirate films, but I was like, this is the guy. This is who spawned them all.
Well, really, Tyrone Power in this movie, he has that look that if you went to a Halloween store and bought a pirate costume, you're really just being a Tyrone Power costume.
Right. Know? Well, not that's Jamie Boy, right?
Yeah, Jamie Boy. Yeah.
No, his second in command. So like he saves him, right? He gets him off the rack, and Jamie Boy's like talking to, I don't know, some lord or whatever the fuck he is. Maybe he was the governor. I don't know. I didn't really pay attention to that part as close as I probably should have. But he looks at his homie, and he's like, you keep your wits about you. Don't get too drunk. And he's like just downing wine. He's like, "Arr, Captain." He's like, "I fight much better when I'm hammered." I was like, "Hell yeah, bro!"
He's going to town there. Well, that was wasn't that the dude though that he was tied up first or whatnot, and then it's like the second he's out there, he's like, "Give me that bottle of wine. I'm gonna chug this whole thing."
Right. Yeah, he's like his number 2 like henchman. Like he just like shows up randomly. He's like Jamie Boy's like second in command, I think. I don't know. I still don't really understand what the fuck Jamie Boy was, other than like good friends with everybody. And like
they're all sort of like Captain Morgan's crew, and this is like that turning point in Captain Morgan's life.
Right.
Where because the movie starts off and it's got this kind of like they literally go and they just like ransack this town and whatnot like that, and I can't help but laugh because the pirates are all going in there and there's like they go and just destroy this city and so on, and then the guys are all leaving. They just got like women over their shoulders walking out going back to my place.
Pirates of the Caribbean. It's a Pirates of the Caribbean ride. Like the whole look, the aesthetic, everything.
Yeah, exactly. You know, and it's like, you know, they're just carrying people out. They got their treasure. They got all the stuff like this. And then what this is for, you know, Captain Morgan shows up here and so on like that. And as they've kind of taken, I can't remember exactly what island they are at first because there's so many of them.
Jamaica.
They go to Jamaica next, I thought, but.
Like Mayakal, something like that.
Yep. Yeah, maybe something like that. Yeah, they start off at one other place, and then they go to Jamaica because thing is like Captain Morgan, you know, he goes from being a pirate for like the English and so on like that, and all those crusades, and then you know Spain's always the villain back in these old pirate movies. You know, Spain really. What I've come to the conclusion,
Spain is always the villain, dude.
Well, this is what it was. Spain was the Nazis until the Nazis came by. Like in any old-timey movie, Spain is always the instant go-to villain for a movie, especially if it's like a pirate or any of these seafaring movies and so on like that. They are always the bad guy.
Oh, dude. Even like in early American history, like when America was like, you know what, we need to get in on this imperialism game. Like, who can we fuck up out there? They're like, England? We fought a couple wars with them. Like, let's not fuck with England. You know, we're kind of on good terms.
We don't want them to come back and burn the White House down again.
Yeah, but they're like the Spanish. Their fleet's decimated. Let's go fuck them up.
We'll go kick them out of all their territories along the way.
Right. Nobody likes the Spanish.
But it's like I think of like that, especially 1600s and 1700s. Spain was like the total like that was the man, like you know what I mean. Like they were trying to
they were
the rest
a big
of the
deal.
world, and so on like that. And oddly enough, England is actually kind of the rebel rousers at this time period because they're mostly what all pirates are, is generally England.
Dude,
you know,
that is one of the coolest parts of like Western history, and like I'm sad to say a lot of my pirate lore that it like sparked my interest to even look up anything came from Uncharted, the first game.
Oh yeah.
Because I was like Sir Francis Drake. I was like, I remember seeing on the History Channel he was a pirate, and like they talk about Francis Drake in that. So like you know, I start deep diving. I was like, oh, he was a privateer.
Yep.
Well, what's a fucking privateer? Oh, privateer's just like a fucking brutal mercenary for the English crown, just going out there schwacking Spanish ships. And then some of these dudes were like, hey, they're like, okay, no more privateering life. Okay, you guys can't go out there and get, you know, women and booty and sink any more boats or anything. You guys got to clean that up. And all those dudes who were doing it were like, oh, but this is pretty fucking great. This is pretty fucking good.
Well, really what it is when I think about it, it's that pirate era of like 1500s to, you know, even almost 1800s. It's like proto-America when you think about it. It's like, here's this like all these islands. Here's a bunch of guys out there with total freedom because a lot of people just left it, like, you know, Europe at that point, be like, screw this. I don't want anybody telling me what I can and can't do, you know. Let's go down here. So you had all kinds of, you know, people of different kind of like classes and races and so on like that. They're just like, hey, who wants to go down and just like, you know, we'll just get a bunch of cool gold. We'll like party it up. We'll just, you know, have our
Who wants to make money?
Yeah, let's make some money. And some of those people made like copious amounts of money. I remember they were talking about when because down in those islands, I kind of fell down the rabbit hole like a couple years ago on like a big old pirate podcast of history. And, they were talking about like when they discovered the color purple. It sounds like such a weird thing nowadays, but they found whatever the plant that makes the dye for purple. And this is like, it was down in one of these islands. They had a boat that was the only thing it was carrying back to, say, Spain, or I think Spain, because Spain was really into purple, of course. And this
I think
boat,
everybody was.
Yeah, well, because people like, wait, I never had purple before. It's like, this is brand new. This is exotic. Well, dude, that boat was worth like $56 billion if you like did it for inflation today.
Right, because it was the only one. It was all the purple.
Yeah, it was just a purple people eater boat coming back.
Little did they know that Prince would come along one day.
Yeah. Make some purple rain and everything. But yeah, all those boats and everything, like just like the amount of treasure and all kinds of stuff and just ridiculous stuff that goes on in that like total Wild West of the Seas era of pirates.
Right.
And even still, like they always say, like in like a lot of that recorded history, there's only so much stuff that's kind of there. And even a lot of the pirate stuff, it literally mostly comes from just like a couple like novels that kind of, a guy who, hung out at the bar and just wrote stories about the pirates. So, like that's kind of like, almost like third person tales of how it's kind of put together.
Well, they're outlaws. Yeah. It's fucking cool. It's like, why are outlaw biker gang stories so fun?
Exactly.
You know what I mean? They're just outside society, just out there fucking wreaking mayhem and partying it up. But it's even cooler. They're on boats, dude.
Yeah, they're on boats. You know what I mean? And then every once in a while, the English will give them a man of war. So you got that boat with like 40 fucking cannons on one side.
Right. And that's why I think like the English, when it comes to like naval warfare and just like their naval history, it is so fucking fun.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, island people that are just fucking batshit crazy. Just dudes who are like, you know what? Like there's a war out, they probably served on a boat and they're like, you know what, I'm gonna get off this. I'm gonna start like doing goods. And then somebody in the English government's like, hello. So if you go out there and you sink some Spanish boats, you can keep all the loot. We don't care. go make mayhem, my friend. Yeah, and all these dudes were just like, hell yeah, I'm gonna get all my buddies. We're gonna get a gang. We're gonna get on a boat. We're gonna go fuck up some shit.
Well, because there was a lot of those ones too, where like England's like, okay, whoa, like they like I think they had like a war, and then they had a bunch of in a sense like homeless veterans walking around, and they're like, here's the thing, you either get on the boat and you go do one of these missions, or you're becoming an indigent servant, which is just a different word for slave, and that's your choices. That's all you got. Right.
But that's one thing that made me like, I'm actually kind of happy that you chose this film because, I wanted to scoff at it. And, through this whole podcast, be like, Spencer, what the fuck did you choose? But the story's actually kind of fun. Like, some of the part, like, the whole relationship with Jamie Boy and the girl, Miss Elizabeth, I think her name is, fucking hilarious. That shit made me laugh the whole time. But all the stuff with Captain Morgan and him becoming the governor, and, he's like, he's in there with his wig, right? And my kid even came in at one point when Captain Morgan's there with all the dandies and he has his privateers who didn't like turn tail or didn't, basically choose the pirate life over civilized life, over like a new way of living. And he's like, he looks like a dandy. He has his wig on, and my kid's just like, who's the fat guy in the wig? Why is he talking weird? And I was like, that's Captain Morgan.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, that's Captain Morgan. Like, he's actually kind of cool. And she's like, he don't look cool. He looks dumb. And I was like, you're kind of right. You're kind of right. He does look dumb.
Well, and here's the thing. Captain Morgan realizes that in the movie, though. That's the thing. He has a turning point later on where he's like on the ship later. He's like, it's so much better without the wig and all like the stupid clothes and everything like that. Like, because
he's trying to fit in, though.
Yeah, he's trying to become kind of like, in a sense, civilized. And I think England's using him, too, because they're like, well, here's the thing. He's kind of the biggest pirate guy out there. If he can become a little bit more civilized, he'll get all his buddies, they'll be able to work it out and so on like that. Because at this point in the story, especially in Captain Morgan's thing, England and Spain have signed a treaty, which this happens kind of left and right, because there's four general countries that are always down in these Caribbeans, and that's England, the Dutch, France, and Spain. And their treaties kind of go back and forth, you know, here and there. But at this point, Spain and England are kind of allied together. So they need Captain Morgan to sort of bring in these privateers and be like, hey, calm this privateering, calm this piracy and all this stuff. You know, let's try to turn, you know, the Caribbean areas into, into New Europe in a sense.
Fun time is over.
Yeah, no more of this stuff, you know. So of course, Jamie Boy's there. You know, he goes along with it because Captain Morgan's his buddy and everything like that. They've been out there for all the years and so on.
It seems like he was Captain Morgan's mate, like first mate.
Yeah, I think that's kind of like what he is exactly in a sense. And then there's the other dude who
Captain Leach.
Yeah, Leach, who's the other guy, but he's not gonna give up this piracy life one bit.
Leach is a fun fucking character, dude. Like, so we see him at the beginning, and him and Jamie Boy are out there just, causing mayhem, right? They're partying it up. They're sitting there just drinking goblet after goblet out of the wine cask, just having a grand old time. But as soon as like they see each, it's like so weird. It's hard to describe how well done, I guess, that storytelling is, the foreshadowing that we have there, where Leach is being a twat, talking about Captain Morgan, how he's basically a spy for the king. Mm-hmm. He's here to spy for the king. He's here to end their pirate fun. And Jamie Boy just is hammered ass drunk at the bar and like insults Captain Leach, and they start sword fighting. And that was my favorite sword fight of the whole fucking movie. I was like, this is a fun fight.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing, is that one just starts off, they just, in the bar, fighting each other and so on like that. And these guys have, like, kind of worked together, but you can kind of tell that they don't totally... They're
best friends.
Yeah,
they're best friends, too.
But, like, this is, like, the one thing where they're going to, like, split differences.
Right. Well, Jamie Boy kind of seemed like he didn't know which way to go. He like stands up at one point to go with Leach, and then Captain Morgan's like, "Sit your ass back down, Jamie Boy."
Exactly.
And then Leach is like, "Oh no, but it's really fun to loot and plunder, right, Jamie Boy? Come with me." And then Jamie Boy stands up again, like, "Oh, that sounds pretty good."
Loot and plunder. Be civilized and, have to go sit in diplomatic meetings and so on. Ooh, it's kind of a tough one.
Yeah.
I do like the part where there's the scene where Maureen O'Hara first shows up, the love interest woman, who I always think of that lady. She's in a bunch of like John Wayne movies and so on. But like, 'cause it's like right at that ransack of where they are at first, and maybe that is Jamaica, because I think that's her house technically that they're ransacking. So maybe they were ransacking.
I don't know. She shows up.
Yeah, and then like fucking Jamie Boy just goes up. He's like, well, I'm gonna take her. That looks like a girl for me right there. He's like, and I always like to try my wine before I buy, And he just like punches her out, throws her over the shoulders, and then I like how Captain Morgan walks in. He's like, "Oh, Captain Morgan," and he just chucks her off his shoulders, like, hey, there's my buddy.
Right,
I'll pick her up
right.
later.
Right, yeah, she bites his lip, and then he like just fucking backfists her to like oblivion, dude.
Just forcefully, just like knocks her out. Just like laughs so hard.
A different kind of courtship, man. A different kind of courtship. We got the Japanese courtship experience, and now we got the privateer pirate courtship.
Yeah. So what I learned from these old movies is if you're in old school feudal Japan, you just when it's time for love, you just slam the woman down on her back, and there you go, you're ready to go. In the piracy days, you just go up and you just lay them out with a punch to the face and throw them over your shoulder and just carry them out like a sack of potatoes.
Right, right, 100%. What's funny is he does that, and then for whatever reason, he's just like, you know what, I'm into that bitch. Like, that's my girl.
Yeah.
But I'm not a pirate anymore, so now I'm going to try to be civilized.
Yeah, and that guy, and then he sees the guy that she's, trying to marry or whatnot. He's like, "Oh, that guy, fuck that bitch." You don't want to be with him. You need a real man, not this, like, pansy-ass wig-wearing, guy who's, what's he do? He just hangs out here in Jamaica all day long. Never been on a boat or anything.
Also, mad respect to that actor who took that pratfall when Jamie Boy hits him with the right hook. Dude, that was like straight up stone.
Yeah.
And he dropped like a sack of potatoes, dude. Like he hard sold that pratfall. Like I was like, God damn, when I watched it. It was like, ugh.
Well, see, and that's one of the big things that makes I feel like older movies is like the stunts. A lot of times will be like, holy shit, they'll do things that like you'll be like, they will never do something like that nowadays, Or if somebody
no, you would have mats. There was no mats there. He literally pratfalled onto like a stone ground.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah, it hurt me. It literally hurt me. I had to rewind that part, and I was like, looking for the mat or just anything, any tell that there was some sort of cushion. There was nothing.
Nope. No, yeah, he probably got an extra nickel that day for that stunt.
I know, right?
It's like how it is.
He drank off the pain that night for sure.
100%. Yeah, but so that they kind of try to be civilized, and this doesn't seem to work out for so long here. They're trying. They kind of have a couple of meetings and so on like that. Of course, they Jamie Boy just decides he's gonna take over Maureen O'Hara's estate. He's like, take the bed that she's got here. This seems comfy enough. This is a perfect place for a privateer.
I love when he runs into her and beats up her fiance. He gives her the necklace, and he's like, I know what dames like you like. Here's some flashy jewelry. Here you go. And she looks at it. She goes, "Where did you get this?" He's like, "From your bed."
I ripped out the picture of that stupid guy in there, though.
So, their whole relationship's pretty silly, but for the most part, the story is interesting. It's pretty cool. I mean, it turns into basically Captain Morgan trying to hold on to his governorship. And I guess we kind of left that out. Captain Morgan was going to get hanged by the English crown. He was down at the gallows. It was time for him to die. And basically he was given an offer he couldn't refuse. It was governorship of Port Royal and clean up the piracy threat.
Yeah, so that was his turn there. It's like, hey, you can keep going, but you're gonna have to be the guy who does it. So that's where that alliance sort of happens, and it makes sense for him to kind of be like, hey, I gotta kind of stop this here. Literally, I was at death's door here. They weren't gonna have it anymore, and so we're gonna clean this place up and so on like that, make it civilized, and you go from there.
Right, and so Leash, he give him 1 month. To think about it and turn over, basically turn over and start a new life as civilized men. Running trade, running honest goods. No more piracy. And Leach is out there stacking ships.
Yeah,
and he doesn't. At this point, he doesn't care what they are. If it's English, he'll sack it. If it's French, Spanish, anything that's on the sea, he's sacking that ship.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's just taking them out, no problem whatsoever. And this is causing kind of a stir amongst the English bigwigs and so on like that, and be like, "Yo, Captain Morgan, I thought we were getting this all squared away. What's going on here?"
Right. And Jamie Boy is going out trying to find him, searching for them, and basically Leach is one step ahead the entire time because there's some sort of confidential informer letting Leach know what the game is. He's staying one step ahead of the ships pursuing him.
Yeah, exactly. So, and Jamie Boy's mission from Captain Morgan is to be like, hey, you got to take down Leash. You got to take down your old buddy. That's it. That's it. He's right. The last of the pirates, and you got to finish him off.
Right. I love though, this entire time, Captain Morgan's position's in jeopardy. But every chance Jamie Boy has to go and try and get up Miss Elizabeth's skirt, he's taking it. No matter where she is, she's out riding her horse. He's out there riding his horse too. He's gonna find her.
He knocks her off the horse too, even too. Just there you go.
Did he knock her off the horse or did she fall?
Oh, I guess she fell, but he was chasing her, wasn't he? And then she fell off.
I mean, she did run away from him. So
Yeah. I mean, she is like literally doing the definitive, no means no, and he is not taking it for that.
right. That whole scene is fucking hilarious though. Like that whole interaction, like he like can't keep his hands to himself. But as soon as she's like, "Tell me about yourself," he's like, "Oh, well, where should I begin?" He's like all into it.
Well,
I guess it all started when I was 14 and I heard the siren call of the ocean.
Yeah, let me go into my little poetry here. Well, this is like that time period I feel like in movies too, where like they felt like you always got to have that romance scene in there, and make something for the ladies too when they show up,
right?
And the interesting thing is this movie's 1942, so I'm thinking about it like if you're going to go see this movie. This is like right as World War II is pretty much starting for the U.S. It's only been 1 year since Pearl Harbor. So this is one of those movies that's kind of, it's like, we're going to Golden Age pirate thing. We want you to kind of forget about the war for a second, and go take your troubles away for an hour and 45 minutes.
Right. Yeah, I'm sure that was popular amongst the troops, maybe.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Well, because it's kind of like the escapism type movie, instead of being anything real, realistic or modern or anything like that. It's like, here you go, here's something completely different than what you see.
It's an adventure story.
Yeah, just old swashbuckling, good old times and stuff. We'll put a little bit of a, because I think it said somewhere, because this is based off a book as well too, like all movies are back in the olden days. But I think in the book there's like the Maureen O'Hara character, she's kind of there, but it's not as big of a deal. I think for the movie, they're like, no, we got to make it a Hollywood movie, so make her like, half the film and make this romance.
Her part's like kind of made the film though, like the romance of it, like made it fun.
Yeah, no, it works out though. I'm not saying anything against it, but like you could tell that they kind of up it for the movie, and it does work out because also the dude that she's supposed to be marrying and whatnot like that has been the informant guy giving Leach all like the one ups on where they're gonna be and like
his nondescript grandma who's leaving him a fortune is actually Leach.
Yeah, exactly. That he brings up that he's got to go out to, he pulls it up to on Maureen O'Hara. He's like, I got to go back to England. And guess what? I had this grandma, had a bunch of money, leaving it towards me. Don't question it.
Yeah. I'm about to be in considerable funds.
Yeah, I mean, like, you want me to come with you? No. I'm gonna go out. There's gonna be a couple weeks of buying hookers and blow that I don't want to miss out on. Right. I don't want you there to ruin the mood.
Right. Oh.
But
yeah, so and we left out the fact that, after Jamie Boy makes her fall off her horse, she does get her revenge for getting knocked out because she domes him with a rock, which is pretty fucking brutal.
Yeah, it just knocks him out because he turns, and I can't remember, he turns to look at something and she just clobbers him over the head.
Right. No, he's in his talk about himself. Like he's so invested in the story about his life that she domes him.
Yeah, and then leaves him there and be like, hopefully he won't come back again.
I love the look he gives too, like when he comes to and sees her riding off with the dandy, and he's just like, I love that bitch. That's my woman. I'm gonna marry her.
And even everybody else there, they're like, really, her? Like, I mean, there's a ton of wenches at the bar. Like I was just there last night. You should have came on by.
You're a Jamie Boy. Everybody wants to fuck you. I want to fuck you, Jamie Boy.
Yeah, Yeah, I mean, it's one thing when you're on a ship. I mean, there's nothing gay about it there. You're just out at sea, a couple guys together, big old, like, sex pit, like, whatever. The moon's out. Yeah, it's special.
Man Love Monday, dude. It's Tuesday. Man Love Tuesday, dude.
It all works, bro.
I always wonder, too, like, every time they're like, because it's Captain Morgan, Jamie Boy's number 2. I keep forgetting that dude's name. Leach. Everybody's like, Jamie Boy, my favorites. It's Jamie Boy, everyone. And I just wonder, I'm like, how does one get the nickname Jamie Boy? Like, out of all the nicknames, you're just like, Jamie Boy.
It's probably that thing. He's probably, since he's been 14 years old on this ship, that's probably what it's been called. And now that he's, 30 years old or whatever,
They still call him Jamie Boy.
they just call him Jamie Boy, And I gotta say, is that third dude? Is that the Tom Blue guy? Is that the second in command?
Maybe. That dude's fun. When he brings the big old fat chick to the room to fuck her in the governor's mansion.
Yes, that's the dude then. That is him. Because I have to say this really quickly. It's like, a lot of times I'll look at Wikipedia for having like all the extra like, info and little research and so on. And I don't know if it's just this movie or this is brand new that Wikipedia is doing it, but like literally it's all the characters actually have, or all the like the top 7 main characters all have like a profile picture. So it's like, oh, there they are. That's the actor I'm looking.
Oh, that's nice.
Never seen that on any other movie until like today. So I'm like, it's weird that is this the movie just somebody put a lot more extra detail into this film over all other movies, or is this maybe a new feature? I don't know. I'll have to find out when I look up something else again.
It could be because this is free on YouTube. It could be one of those movies that gets extra love in like a film study class or like a film appreciation class, because I mean it is a period piece. Mm-hmm. It's old. Yeah. It has to be like, early color movie.
Yeah.
Just from what you were telling me before, and we haven't even talked about this yet, how they built set pieces to where it's filled with water and you'd have a boat in there. So you could have 2 ships on the ocean, but it's a set piece. They're not actually in the ocean. They're on a lot being shot somewhere, probably in Los Angeles.
Exactly. Well, that's like...
Yeah, that's fucking awesome.
Like this movie here is a 20th Century Fox movie, and the ones that are at Warner Brothers, they had the whole lot that was literally a tank that you could fit 2 full-size ships in, and they used that like on the Seahawk, I know for sure, because I think that was a special feature that I remember.
This can't be far from it, because it kind of seemed that way. Like when they showed the horizon shots when it's like nighttime, you're like, well, that's clearly not real. That's not a real night scene.
Well, I kind of wonder when there is action scenes later on when I was watching this movie, I was trying to figure out, I'm like, were certain scenes, like especially with the boats and stuff later on, I'm like, were some of these I think some of them are models in this one for sure, more than there is like maybe, I'm not too sure if they use a full giant tanker like that those Warner Brothers ones did for this one. This one might be a little bit of a half, but I think a lot of, like some of the boat scenes, I think they're all models, which I think that's always really cool anyways. I love fucking models. But
they look good.
Yeah, no, well, because here's the thing. At the end of the day, it's still something real. It's still a tangible object, and that's why it always looks better than almost like a CG does.
It's not like a Thunderbirds model, so, it passes muster.
Yeah, exactly, But because I was trying to think of it when I was watching this, I'm like, okay, you can tell there's some, like, rear projection stuff, like when they're in, like, the horse cart and carriage and so on there,
Right.
But, because, that one that, like, had the full tanks, I know for sure that's a Warner Brothers thing, and I'm not too sure if they lent that out to 20th Century Fox or anything like that back in the day. Maybe a little bit more rivalries there, But,
right. It's still cool. It's a cool caveat for these style of films during that period.
And these ones, it still just looks good. It still has, like, a big scope feel to it, and I always love that, like, early Technicolor stuff, too, where the colors just really pop, and they almost stand out more, like, it's that thing, it's a 42 movie, but, like, it's almost like if nobody really told you it, you'd be like, oh, that looks like that's, like, a 68 movie. Like, it looks good.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it did pop, like, Jamie Boy's pirate outfit.
Yeah.
You're like, that's a fucking pirate. I don't even have to look too hard. That's a fucking pirate.
Yeah, he's got like the red do-rag on and everything like that. He's got like the kind of like the thin mustache going down Hulk Hogan style.
Red sash just popping off black.
Yeah, exactly.
He looks like a fucking pirate.
Yeah, so they're making it look real good there and so on like that. And then
and Leach looks like a pirate, or he looks like he could be in Braveheart, or he looks like he could be in like Game of Thrones. Like he could go all over the place.
Well, this is like that time period too, where like that guy probably was the character actor that he went from like costume drama to costume drama. Be like, okay, pirate this week, a couple weeks later, sure, I'll be the villain in like a Knights of the Round thing. What do you want me to do next? Hey, a Western? Sure, I can do a Western, no problem.
Right. No, he was phenomenal. Like I think out of all the characters, Leach was my favorite because it was like the scene where kind of just jumping ahead Jamie Boy gets, read the riot act by Captain Morgan. He's been failing up to this point, and Jamie Boy's too busy trying to get pussy instead of, trying to stop Leech.
Yeah, he keeps going back to Jamaica to get Maureen O'Hara.
Yeah.
Like, it's just not working out, but he keeps going back there.
Yeah, he won't give it up. So Morgan's just like, forget the dame. Like, she's already taken. Like, get out there and go, like, kill this fucker. Like, get it done. Like, I'm gonna get hanged if this doesn't happen. And I think Morgan even gives a deadline where he's basically like, go ahead, write a letter to the king. We'll have Leech's head on a stake before that response gets back here. Mm-hmm. So the clock's ticking. So what does Jamie Boy do? He kidnaps the bitch and takes her with him on his mission.
Throws her over his shoulder and just ties her up and like, you're coming with me. Come hella high water.
Right, I'm gonna make you fall in love. So he's going out to get Leech. They have an ambush set up, and basically Leech finds them first, and they're outgunned, outmanned. Basically, Jamie Boy's only option is to fly the black flag and pretend to be a pirate, pretend to betray Captain Morgan. Yeah. So they basically got to try and fool this guy who's suspicious of everybody, but it is his oldest friend. So they get him in there, and my favorite scene of that whole movie is when Leech busts into the room, when Jamie Boy's like, I'm not going to try and lay in bed with you. I'm gonna lay in my hammock, and then Leech busts in on him because he feels like something's up.
Well, because
they have to like play pretend.
Yeah, well, because that's the thing is he has like that. That's his kind of way up. He's like, hey, I know you think I'm working for Captain Morgan, but I'm going back to be a pirate. I want to be with you. I stole this woman. She's gonna be my wife. You know what I mean? And he's playing this thing off there. And then when they're in that the cabin and whatnot, and she's like, "Don't you dare come there. You get in that hammock and whatnot." But then the second he's like, "Oh shit, someone's coming!" Like, hold on, let me rip my shirt off and jump in bed with you. Play along.
Right. She's running off the suspicion because she comes out when he's flying the black flag. He doesn't tell her any of his plans until she sees it. She's basically like, I always knew you were a pirate. You're a piece of shit. Like, I knew this was all fake. But, so he jumps into bed with her, and Leech comes in just fucking hammered, right? And he's like, oh, I had to get my oldest friend a wedding gift. It's the funnest scene of the whole movie, in my opinion.
Yeah, he comes in, he brings this dress that he probably just stole off of some poor damsel back in the day, and he's like, here you go.
He probably threw her overboard after he got bored with her because he probably stole her from town.
Yeah, they probably keyholed her and everything like that.
Right. But he's like looking under the blanket bedspread and like touching them and shit. Like, just like, oh, she has nice legs.
He's just sitting there drunk and creeping.
Right. But he sees something's up. He sees the hammock. He sees Jamie Boy has his pants on still. So he's like, no fucking's happening. This isn't like Jamie Boy. Jamie Boy's always, running the pipe.
Yeah. Jamie Boy with pants on. That's not like him.
Yeah, that's abnormal. I never see Jamie Boy with pants on when he's in a room. And I've seen it a lot.
Yeah, so he knows something's up now. He's like, no, wait a second. I don't trust this here.
I love that scene, though, where, it's like, it's kind of, they don't go into, like, very in-depth storytelling in this film, unfortunately. It's a quick watch.
Yeah.
It is a short movie.
Yeah,
but
it's only an hour and 40, and these movies, and older movies in a weird way kind of play faster in a strange way too.
Some of them for sure. And, like, you just got to remember, like, these are two best friends. Leech even calls Jamie Boy his oldest friend, like his oldest living friend. So Leech is out there on the deck, hammered ass drunk, trying to clear his head because he suspects his friend betrayed him. And I just love that scene where it's like, hey, Captain, and he like goes to talk to him. He's like, get away from me. And now's not the time. I need the wind to clear my head. And it's like, it's kind of a tragic scene because it's like we have the dramatic foreshadowing where they came to blows over Captain Morgan and they were going to have a sword fight, I'm guessing to the death in the bar. And then here Leach is running off the, thought that Jamie Boy, his oldest friend, his best friend in the world, is finally going to join him and they could have pirate fun again. And then now he realized that, he's going to have to kill his friend.
It's the only way,
Yeah, it's the only way. To me, I was like, damn, this is some good storytelling. I didn't know it was from a book, which makes more sense now.
Yeah.
But I was like, man, this usually with old movies, sometimes I feel like the storytelling is like, okay, like nothing phenomenal. Like there's good ones out there, but I really enjoyed it. I was like, man, this is some crisp, to the point, rapid storytelling where it's just hitting all the marks: betrayal, love, all of it.
Yeah, wait, I'll say this is why I like that. It sounds weird, but like that 30s and like especially like the early 40s era is because the 50s is kind of a weak era for movies a lot of times. I'm not saying there's not good stuff in there, because I mean that's when The Searchers is with John Wayne, so there are some really good ones in that time period. But it's like I feel like in this 30s and like 40s area, they just kind of went with a lot of stuff, and it was just like, yeah, we were just gonna go, and movies were a little bit more intense than they get when they kind of soften up a little bit in the 50s and so on. Because there's a couple pirate movies I've watched in the 50s, and they almost become kind of like almost like they're like almost like if they're a PG, like they're made for like a family movie. So it feels like it's like, oh, this is not nearly as exciting as like that. You made it kind of almost feel a little bit goofy. Where this,
I wonder if it's because it's post World War II has
I think so.
Impact on that.
Yeah, I think so, because I think post World War II, I think all like the adults were like, we want the kids to grow up in a very nice, protected society, and so on.
Or they just didn't want the violence.
Yeah, I think that's it. They because that's why they say that why like post World War II musicals are really popular, because I think it was completely different. It was like, I want to just see fun. I don't care. That's all I want to see. Singing.
I just want to get drunk. I want to get drunk. I want to see some fun. I'm gonna go home. I'm gonna beat my wife.
I'll be singing on the whole way. Beer in hand and everything.
Yeah.
Where this time period it's like, high adventure, pirates, all stuff. And probably at this point too, it's like, I was thinking about that, like, you got the people here. It's like, so this movie's almost made for a lot of people though too that are probably, I guess, like, I mean, you could show the movie overseas if you happen to get the projector and send it over and so on. I know they definitely did that, but definitely. It's
we weren't really in the fight yet. It was like small engagements when you really think about it.
Yeah, because
you said 1942 was this
December.
film?
So it's 1 year after Pearl Harbor in a sense.
Right. So like the island campaigns were like barely anything was going on. We were basically just losing ground to the Japanese.
Yeah, exactly. Well, because this is the other interesting thing too is Tyrone Power literally goes into the service after this movie from like 1943 to 46, and he gets trained he gets trained as a pilot in the Marines. I think he generally just flies cargo planes and things of that nature, but he does that in the Japanese campaign, which is kind of cool.
Right. Well, I've noticed like all the famous people that served in World War II, like who were famous and then went into World War II, they don't go anywhere near the front.
No,
none of them.
I think they use them sort of like in a sense like Captain America styles. Like, we just need you to like pump up the troops in a sense.
Yeah. Get us some war bonds.
Yeah, you're gonna do a lot more for us in a sense in advertising than you will do in fighting and dying instantaneously. We don't want to be known as the guy that killed Tyrone Power, that killed fucking Zorro out there.
Right, and that's the beauty of, and I know this is a random kind of like modern pivot, but that Captain America First Avenger movie, that's one of my favorite of all the Marvel films.
Well, to me, all the Captain America movies I think are the best ones. I think Captain America First Soldier, Winter Soldier, Civil War, those are like some of the pinnacle ones. You put it sounds weird. You put Captain America in something and it's just already that much better.
Right. Well, that is very true, but I just love the whole like, he's the super soldier, and they're like, and you are going to serve your country by going on a USO tour for the next like 4 years.
Exactly.
Like that line where he's like, what gives you the experience to lead? And he's like, well, I have knocked out Adolf Hitler 142 times. Like, what?
All the promos and everything.
Right.
Oh, it's funny you mentioned Captain America. I literally just finished a Captain America comic that I was reading. It's kind of a newer one or whatnot, and it's like one of those ones where it has like two stories, like modern Captain, and then it has like boy Captain, or like Steve Rogers, and it's like it's all about him like fighting these like Nazi rallies in like 1938 or whatever, like in like they're like happening in like Brooklyn and New York and so on like that, and he's going in there as like 14-year-old Steve Rogers like causing havoc, so much so that like the Jewish mafia comes by and they're like, wait, you know what's here, let's give you a little bit back, and don't worry that we're gangsters, but you're doing it like we want you to help out because this is not going to be good for us.
Oh my god.
Is
this an old Captain America comic?
No, it was like 2023. This is actually a pretty new one.
That's fucking hilarious. Somebody was like, you know what? I'm gonna write this in here.
Exactly. I mean, it's one of those ones. It's from like one of the like a dude who's kind of an older writer by this point. I mean, he's been writing comics since like the 90s. So, but yeah, I just thought it was kind of interesting. But it's kind of fun to watch like young Captain America fight like in a sense American Nazis in a sense in the early days.
That's pretty fun. That sounds like a good read.
Yeah, it was a fun. It had the back and forth story, so you kind of got sometimes a little bit lost because you'd be like, it's 1938, and it's like it's modern day Captain America, and he's like, putting together like an apartment building or something like that, doing one of those like Captain America things. Oh no, Doctor Strange came by. Now we're going to another dimension. Be like, now we're back in 1938. So it jumped around a bit, but I still had fun with it.
That sounds fun. Yeah, I didn't watch anything new over this entire week. I watched this movie actually twice, The Black Swan.
Oh, did you?
I did because I was like, I wanted to watch it because it's the storytelling so quick as it progresses. I felt like I missed shit.
Yeah.
So I had to watch it again, and I think that's why I keep talking about the story and like the foreshadowing and the betrayal that happens in it, because it's like, I don't know, man. I actually really enjoyed it. I did not think I would as much as I did, but I kind of felt bad for Leach in a way.
Yeah.
Because it's like he ultimately, like, he wanted to keep freedom. That's what he wanted. And like that free way of life that they all had, the fun, good times with their buddies, out there wreaking havoc on the dirty Spanish. It all came to an end just abruptly one day, just no more.
Yeah, well, that's the thing, and I think that's kind of a hard one to take in because it's like literally like you got away from the tyranny that was Europe, and like everybody was kind of pretty much done with that, and then the fact is like
right.
now they're bringing it down here to our Caribbean islands and so on like that,
our little paradise that we had.
Yeah. And they're going to try to take this away from us, so it becomes in a weird way like a civil war in a sense.
And it could have been their entire lives. Like, that's what I was also thinking about. I was like, man, like this war, like with the Spanish, could have been going on for like the entire life of Jamie Boy. Like, he could have been 14 and joined a privateer ship and been serving with Captain Morgan. I mean, like it could have been years upon years.
Yeah, and I think it kind of is because, it's like, once again, the Spanish are mostly always, I mean, other than these miscellaneous treaties that come here, the Spanish are always
they're the top dogs.
They're the top dogs, and they're definitely, in a sense, the government. At the end of the day, because this is that weird time period where England becomes that eventually, and then of course, they start to become the next top dogs of all the seafaring and so on like that. But especially in like the earlier days, they are the more like rebellious of the countries, and then the Dutch are just there to kind of steal shit and trade and kind of work behind the scenes. I feel like that's what the Dutch is doing. Like while these guys are fighting each other, the Dutch will kind of go back and forth doing their trading and so on. And
a
then
little
there's
sneaky.
Yeah.
The Dutch will be out there in Japan. You know what I mean? Like making monasteries and getting like Japanese fucking trade, I guess.
Yeah, doing that, and of course Francis was trying to fit in too,
Right.
Have you ever played that Sid Meier's Pirates game before?
A long time ago. A long time.
Because that game always kind of gives like the good, like, almost like a fun
all the Sid Meier games.
Yeah, all of them are
History.
great.
They teach you history.
They teach you history, but like that one was always kind of a cool one because you are just literally you get like you start off like a small schooner or whatnot, and then you just start upgrading it as time goes on, and you battle other ships, and you ransack fucking towns and so on, and then next thing you know, you got like an armada coming behind you as you've like taken over this area. And I think in that game too, you age, which is kind of interesting. So like you go as long as a pirate can go, which I think he picked it based on like what was like the average pirate's like lifespan, and so I think you
right.
or if all was good, you died at like 56 or something.
Right. Yeah, I like the Sid Meier's games, but when it came to those like simulation real time strategy games, I went towards like the more ridiculous route. At least when I had access to them, that was like for me World of Warcraft or like Warcraft 2. Mm-hmm. Fuck, what was the other big one? Age of Empires, I think it was.
Yeah, Age of Empires is a good one too. For those like time strategies. Well, Sid Meier's Pirates is actually it's not as much like a.
It's like a simulation, right?
Well, yeah, it is in a sense, but it's more of like I guess you would say still a little bit more adventure-y like, because you pretty much have like 5 different things you kind of do in it. You sail, they have a sword play thing, which is kind of like a slight fighting game in a sense. Of course, then you do like business deals and so on like that with trades and treaties and agreements, and then of course you can ransack towns and so on.
Right.
So
he had that Civilization game too. Sid Meier's like Civilization. Mm-hmm. In Monkey Island.
Well, that's not Sid Meier's, but yeah, there is Monkey Island. It feels like that.
Okay, never mind.
I think that's LucasArts, but it feels like it's in the same caliber.
Right.
Another funny thing is when I was looking up Tyrone Power is this is something that happens with a lot of these actors back in the days too. He died at 45. Which is like most of these guys do not live very long. And ironically,
what happened to him?
He died of a heart attack. He died on my birthday.
Oh, really?
And they say, he smoked 3 to 4 packs of cigarettes a day. That they say that might be something that caused it. But this is a time period where people smoke a lot. I remember, if you read that first 007 book, Casino Royale, it talks about 007 smoked 75 cigarettes a day. And I read later on, it's like that was what Ian Fleming smoked every single day, so he just wrote that in there.
God damn.
That's like literally, you don't even take a break from smoking. Like when a cigarette goes out, you just light another one.
Dude, that's like, have you ever seen the movie The Green Book?
I don't think so.
With Viggo Mortensen? And, what's that actor's name? God damn, it's going to piss me off. I can't remember his name. Marshawn Ali, I think his name is. He's a fucking stud. They're both studs. Anything Viggo Mortensen, I'm gonna watch. I don't give a fuck what it is.
Yeah.
But he plays like an Italian dude born and raised in the Bronx, and like literally almost every scene he's smoking a cigarette.
Just continuously. Well, and that's just like how these guys were. It's
what
like,
they did.
But this is the weird thing too. Is like I notice with a lot of these golden age movies, the actors all die like at maximum, like they get to like 50. Humphrey Bogart, Errol Flynn, none of those guys last. John Wayne, none of those guys last very long. The women, on the other hand, let go forever. Like Maureen O'Hara, she died at 95 years old.
God damn.
I'm drawing a blank on her name.
John Wayne probably could have lasted a little bit longer if he didn't get fucking radiation poisoning.
Nuclear radiation.
Yeah.
Yeah, that one kind of got him there, but a lot of times it was like the hard drinking and smoking combined together. Just
right.
It's not like they're drinking beer; they're drinking hard alcohol all day long.
Well, I bet they fucking party too.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like what was the story Tarantino had where it's like the producer would have like a bed in his room where he'd fuck all the starlets? It's like, dude, like
that's the Shaw Brothers.
The debauchery.
And that really happened. Apparently,
right.
I
bet it was just as bad in Hollywood. You know what I mean? Like the debauchery and the parties and like just fucking getting after it, the fame. Because it's like, there were no famous people back then. If you were a famous person, it's probably insane.
Did you ever see that movie? It came out a couple years ago. I'm spacing out on the name, but it had Brad Pitt in it, and it was about like silent era movies. Shit, what the fuck was that movie called? Babylon?
No.
I thought it was fucking good. I actually liked it a lot. I know it's a movie that a lot of people like. It's kind of people either like it or they don't like it. Really, it's long as fuck. It's like 3 hours plus, but it's like it's about silent movies, and then like from that kind of lifestyle into turning into like talkies. So in a sense, like where we are right now, and you know Brad Pitt's like a silent movie star, and he's fucking like, you know, popular as all can be. Everything's great, and they do a cool job of like showing you it, and they show it like in a chaotic form too. Like the movie starts off with like a it feels like a 35-minute long like hardcore party scene where it's just like shit's just going. They're just out in like in the desert at like some dude's house that he built out there like on the outskirts of L.A. A huge party, and it's got wild like goofy comedy in it too. Like there's even a part where the dude's like trying to bring this elephant to like it's like in the very beginning of the movie, trying to bring this elephant to there, and they have him load up on a trailer, and they're trying to drag him up this mountain like with like a Model T that's like barely able to pull it up the hill and stuff. And they're like, well, go behind and start pushing. They start pushing the elephant. The elephant literally just shits all over all the guys, and it's like the start of the movie. I was laughing so fucking hard, but then they go to like a party, and it's like it's crazy, and there's debauchery and all kinds of stuff. But you kind of see it as it goes, and then you see once the talkie movies come in, all those silent movie stars, it's like turns out like, you know, when they see them talk, they're like, that's what the dude sounds like? Well, I don't want to fucking see his movies anymore or anything like that. So they just start to fade out, and other actors come in and how they kind of deal with it. But I thought it was a cool movie that just kind of shows that, you know, 20s to 30s era, and I thought it was actually I really liked it a lot. I haven't seen it since cinema, but it's one of those ones I always kind of want to throw on again.
That'd be so depressing to be like a silent movie, just superstar. And then they're like, no, you sound stupid.
yeah, that's what your voice is. It's kind of twangy, and and you can't go on next. Because I think that happened to a lot of them too. It's like, yeah, they weren't good at that kind of acting in a sense, you know.
I'm not gonna lie, like I get annoyed of like some of the voices of like the actors from like that. You know, but so that would be the golden age or silver age or whatever the fuck it is of movies where they all have the voice like this, and they all kind of sound the same, you know?
Yeah, they're like, this is my acting voice. Well, I feel like all movies until you really get to about the late 60s, I feel that
I always hear people say until Marlon Brando is when it kind of changes.
Yeah, he sort of changes up. I guess you could say a little. There is some movies where it changes there. Some of the teenage movies kind of have a little bit different voices. Like, you know, like unlike the kind of late 50s going into early 60s where we start having the monster movies and like the beach party ones and so on.
Right.
You know, but I feel like this kind of acting is definitely like a 30s, 40s, 50s. Early 60s, you have we all talk like this. This is the movie studio acting, and this is how you do it, you know, no matter who you are.
This is how everybody sounds, and this is how you deliver your lines, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, because they all sort of talk like this, and it's kind of like it's a weird, like, is it an American accent? No. Is it an English accent? Not really. What is it? It's something in between.
Right. Yeah, I always hear, like, when I'd hear, like, actors talk about it, they would say, like, you know, point towards, and it's not like they're film study like professionals, you know, it's just somebody I hear on a podcast. They would point towards Brando and then like James Dean and dudes like that where they kind of broke the mold. They're like different. Yeah. They didn't have the same clipped talking style as everybody else.
Well, and it's like, so yeah, you have that with what the heck's the wild one? That's the Brandau one with the motorcycle gang, and then
right, Rebel Without a Cause for James Dean for sure.
So you have all these ones, and then the real big shift is once you get to like the new Hollywood era, which would be like Easy Rider. That's kind of like the biggest one where it radically changes from being like, in a sense, from a studio movie to here's this kind of weird, almost artsy independent movie that's grounded in reality. It's shot more like a documentary. The characters feel real, gritty, and dirty, and nasty, and so on like that. Right. And it doesn't have a happy ending. Like that's kind of like the big change, you know. And that goes from
huge shift.
Yeah, huge shift. So late 60s. That's why I like the late 60s. You get some fucking really interesting movies, and it's like. It's weird because you can look at 62 and like that early, and it's like the movies will still have a very studio vibe. I mean, you get things like Breakfast at Tiffany's and so on like that. Still really fun movies. I'm not saying that, but then
7 Year Itch is another studio style movie.
Yeah, like all the Marilyn Monroe ones and so on like that, and they're all fun and stuff like that. But like when it has like in less than 10 years, it's amazing how radical that change is. And then you start getting movies where like they start becoming violent and brutal and like almost like unlikable characters, but you really want to keep watching it. You want to see where these guys go. A lot of times the endings don't end nicely. Everybody dies. Hard cut the credits and so on, and that really only lasts for oddly only like about a decade. It goes for about 10 years, and then there's like 3 movies I think it really changed it. It's Jaws, Star Wars, and Rocky. That kind of changes everybody out of like, well, maybe we should have more fun, optimistic endings.
Oh God, yeah. I did watch a movie recently. It was Rocky. You just reminded me, but I got really mad because I got to the last 24 or 22 minutes right before the Apollo Creed fight, and the channel I was watching it on suddenly died and went out, and I couldn't finish the movie. I was so fucking mad, dude.
That's terrible.
I've seen it like 15,000 times, but I was upset.
It doesn't matter that was that one viewing that's just you're gonna get screwed right there, right at the very end, right at the fight and everything like that. That's what it's all been building up to,
Right.
And speaking of fights building up, this is where we're all building up to. Going back to the Black Swan, we're building up to this big battle towards the end, and this battle is actually pretty badass. This is where like the production all starts to come in and so on like that. Because what's kind of going on, to recap where we are, is Jamie Boy and Leach have kind of combined their ships together, and to keep everything kind of on par, and just for like some of those scenes, Jamie Boy and of course Maureen O'Hara are on Leach's ship to make sure everything's safe and dandy and so on, because they're going to sail in and they're going to go take on Morgan in the cove and everything like that, and have a big old battle and whatnot there. And at this moment, Morgan's assuming that Jamie Boy has betrayed him at this point,
Yes.
But he hasn't, but he doesn't know this for sure yet. So they literally go into this battle. Ships are firing cannons off left and right. Things are blowing up. They got cool special effects going on here. Good explosions. Good, ships, blowing to pieces and so on.
Leach is just hammering them from the ocean with his main guns, while Jamie Boy is tied up. And somehow, we didn't get to see it happen, but somehow Leach was able to capture all of Jamie Boy's crew. They're all in the hold.
Yeah, because I guess obviously he wasn't there to watch over the ship and so on. So yeah, they're all in the hold. Jamie Boy's tied up to that
the hammock.
To the hammock. He's strapped to that, which it's interesting because I was thinking that the whole time. I'm like, boy, how do you break yourself out of a hammock if you're all tied up to it? It's a challenging act right there.
Right.
But this is leading for once Jamie Boy finally gets himself free, he goes up on deck, and everybody's fighting, ships are being boarded and so on like that. But he finally gets to have his duel here with Leach.
Right. I like how he's like basically low crawling, being like a pirate ninja, playing dead, slowly getting that hold open.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, well, the guys come out like, "What's going on there?" Oh, no, nothing. I guess we'll just go back to what we're doing.
Yeah, it's just a dead dude. Wait a second, that's Jamie Boy, but he's got pants on.
Yeah, well, I should have recognized the red do-rag, but I guess I just didn't notice that.
Right. Well, I love that scene, but I do have issues with it. I fucking hate when they speed up fight scenes.
Oh,
and I get it because there's a lot of people, and there was probably like not enough time to like really work out choreography. So, like, I bet dudes with shovels were just like, oh, okay, I was going to swing at you, you block it, and then you swing at me. Like during the filming of that scene.
And I think they do it to try to probably make it feel more chaotic so that you don't pay attention to the guys in the background who are just, because you see that in other movies too, where like you'll see guys, like I love watching like to see what the guys in the background of a big fight are doing. Not the main characters. Right. The main characters have it all worked out. But then you see like the other guys in the background, they got smiles on their faces and they're like throwing punches at each other and so on like that. Right. Just be like
right, 100%. You're extras on set letting you down. You're just like, God damn it.
Yeah, you're getting paid in a ham sandwich. This is the best you're going to get out of this.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, But whatever. We're here to see Jamie Boy take on Leech, and they finally get their sword duel going. And once again, that's where old movies are great. And I think this is the other thing that makes, once again, old movies really good too, is that like these actors, they have to learn all these like stunts as well too. It's kind of like, there is stunt doubles, but it's like this is the time period where like a lot of times the main actor, they are the expert at fencing. They are the expert at horse riding. They'll swing across the rope and all kinds of stuff. You know what I mean? Maybe if it's like explosion or something like that, it might not be unless you're like Douglas Fairbanks. But they
have to get after it.
Yeah. So like, I feel like it gives it a little bit more real feel for sure.
Which makes modern actors who do it like it forever. I think it's one of the greatest travesties of all time is the love that Hayden Christensen didn't get for those Star Wars films. Because that motherfucker, if you watch all the bonus features of like lightsaber duels that could have been, the stunt coordinated team or whatever the fuck you call them putting in work, like we're going to make the Count Dooku fight. Every single one has Hayden Christensen, the fucking actual actor playing Anakin, with the stunt coordinators going fucking ham with lightsabers. You're just like, God damn, like Ewan McGregor's not fucking there. He's, Obi-Wan's off fucking jerking his dick in his trailer, but Hayden Christensen's like, I'm going to put in the work.
Yep. Yeah. That's the thing is sometimes those actors that kind of get, like, they get put down a bit, but it's like he's putting in more effort than one would think, Right. I'm like, hell yeah, dude. And that doesn't happen anymore. In the day of stunt doubles, that just doesn't happen. Yeah, and that goes away for a long time unless you're one of those actors like a Jackie Chan or like a Tom Cruise nowadays and so on.
Or like modern now. Like now it's like, I think who brought a resurgence to that was Keanu Reeves with John Wick. Yeah,
where he started doing a little bit more of it.
Well, yeah, dude, he trained his fucking ass off for those movies. Like you could go watch. It's with Terran Tactical. Is the gun trainer, the firearms trainer. You could like find all the footage of, Keanu Reeves training like gunplay with him, reloads, everything so that he's like spot on. And like, that's nothing new. Like every good movie who does it, like Heat, those fuckers trained. They trained their asses off to handle those guns like professionals. But, Keanu Reeves took it a step further. Like he brought style to it with the John Wick films. Really got comfortable, and then did all the Aikido and Jiu-Jitsu and Judo training as well on top of it, and then did those stunts in the movie.
Yep.
It's fucking bananas. Like no one does that anymore, and it makes your film and levels it up. So when you watch an old movie like this where Jamie Boy and Leech are actually fucking sword fighting, like not actually sword fighting, but they're really getting after it, fighting all over that fucking ship. It makes for an awesome scene from a movie from 1942.
Yeah, it makes it very believable, and that's the thing is like you get behind it. They have longer, they hold on the sword fights longer. That's like one of my things I like the most too. They don't cut all the time, so like you get to actually see it go down. And even with all the other stuff going on too, there's explosions, there's other pirates being thrown from ships and so on like that. There's a lot of chaos going on here, but you have these two guys, best friends, slashing it out with their swords and just really going to town.
Real death match. Also, before the Leech and Jamie Boy fight, we get one awesome old school pirate rope swing with the sword in the teeth. That made me happy. I did a little woo.
As he jumps on down into like the swim over to his ship and whatnot, and he's got the sword in his teeth and everything like that.
Right.
Yeah, no, you got to have all those cool things in there too, but yeah, so you get that. You get a badass fight scene there, and then of course we all know that Jamie Boy's going to win, but like he has to kill his friend here, and he goes down, but he still gets stabbed in the process too. They both get each other, but he happens to kill Leech.
Right, dude. I fucking love when what's the actress's name?
Maureen O'Hara.
Yeah, when Maureen O'Hara has her like close up shocked face moment, she's like she looks away, like Leech gets stabbed, she's like, oh, and she's like, like her fucking face, dude.
I laughed there too.
I laughed so hard. I watched it on my movie projector on my big screen, so it's just her fucking face on the whole projector screen. I'm like, oh my god.
That's probably the best way to watch this movie because you probably got like
it was great.
It was probably phenomenal because I kind of did the other way, right? I watched a little bit on my TV, but then I watched some of this like literally as I was like eating lunch on my phone, like which is probably like the most like the way that nobody thought you were gonna watch this movie was on a little a 7-inch screen.
I'm making it a point. Every movie we do this for, I watch it on the projector.
You probably get a much more like dialed in depth like experience, because I will say that's the only kind of downfall is like it's nice that you can kind of like watch something anywhere, but like if you can get yourself in that right room and in that right situation, it's like when you watch a movie in the movie theaters. I feel like you always kind of walk out like it absorbs more than like if you're just kind of casually even if you're like paying attention, but like if there's other distractions even around you.
Yeah, put your phone away. Watch the fucking movie. If you're watching it on your phone, then your phone's already away. You can't do anything else.
Yeah.
You just need to bring like you need to find one of those old school like hook your phone up to the goggles style.
Well, I have that in the car, which I got literally. It's like a TV screen or a TV glasses. So you put the glasses on, and you look like Ray Charles as you're sitting there, and then you can plug the USB-C into the phone, and then it just mirrors the phone. So I use that one a lot of times when I'm waiting for Laura or whatnot like that. I'll just kick back in the car, and it probably just looks like a blind person. Like should that blind person be driving? Like seems.
Get robbed by somebody.
Oh yeah, because you got TV. Well, because you put it on and it makes it like they always want to say it's like, it makes it like a 100-inch screen. It probably makes it more like you're watching like a 50-inch screen, but like it feels like you're watching a 50-inch screen if it just happened to be like in your car or
really close.
So it's pretty badass though. Well, it's weird because it has like you put it on so it feels like it's really close, but it has like a depth thing, so it like. It feels like it's almost if like the best way I could say it is like say if like you were watching a TV and the TV was maybe 15 feet away from you, like it has like that kind of thing.
It's like perfect viewing distance.
Yeah, it's pretty good viewing distance and everything. And that's like it's great because it's like you just plug your phone in, you kick back, watch a movie, you can play Xbox Game Pass on there and so on like that. And like I use it all the time. It's like and it's one of those ones where it's like I've got a lot of use out of that. I'm like that is just a pair of glasses with a cable. That's all you need. Plug it in. So that's cool.
Right. It's a little bit better than our running joke about like the Oculus, where it's like that is the most like singular experience you could have. If anyone else is around you, you just fucking ignore them.
Well, that's the thing. Is the Oculus, watching a movie in that is like really probably the best way you can watch a movie at home. But it's like, one, forget it if anybody else is going to watch it with you, unless you want to be, unless you're really rich and you have two Oculuses and you both are sitting next to each other looking at your cartoon avatars in there. Then I guess you could do it that way. But I guess
you could, huh?
Yeah. Because me and you, if we both had Quest, we could actually sit in the movie theater together and we could look at each other in CG form.
Dude, we wouldn't pay attention to the movie because I'd just be looking over at you, be like, the whole time. Like trying to like make my avatar jerk you off the whole movie, and you're just like, get out of here! What are you doing?
With like the haptic feedback and everything.
Oh no! Laura's just back there, just like, what the fuck's happening?
Yeah, that's the other thing about Quest 2 is because you can't hear anything, so you have no idea what somebody's doing when they have that thing on. They just look like a crazy person. But yeah, that's the other thing is you have that, and then it's also it sounds weird. It's just that like extra fraction of like a setup. I know it's just like you're putting glasses on, but like so it's not the same as just kicking back and being like, I'm gonna put the projector on, or I'm gonna put on the TV or whatnot.
Right. If you have to set it up, then it becomes a chore.
Yeah, and you always got to charge it. It seems like that thing always dies like every week, so it's like, you always got to keep it kind of going and so on. So, but as I said,
I set up this movie room, so I have to use it, and I was like, this is. And when I say movie room, I'm not rich. It's not a movie room. It's just an extra room in my house, and I'm not going to show my setup, but literally a projector just up on a dresser that I moved into the middle of the floor. It's nothing amazing.
But it's one of those ones like it doesn't take much to actually kind of make a cool like setup with a projector. Though.
It's a big ass screen. It's a big ass screen. It's a good speaker. So fuck it.
That's it. Yeah, that's all you need as long as you got a good speaker and so on. As I said, movies like this feel like even better to watch it because you're like, oh yeah, you're getting like almost like the cinema experience. It's like you would never generally be able to see this on a big enough screen anyways. Like hell, when was the last time this movie played in theaters anyways?
Oh God, right?
You know,
Yeah,
I bet you
100%.
even at the New Beverly Quentin Tarantino's theater, I don't even know if they've ever played this before. You know,
Right. Right.
but yeah, going back to the total end of the movie, whatever, we had the fight with Leach and Jamie Boy, you know, and pretty much he kills Leach and so on. He's wounded in the process. Of course, Maureen O'Hara's there to kind of like tend to him and whatnot like this. And during all this,
Jamie boy, why are you not in your room?
and she finally says Jamie Boy, because he says earlier on, he's like, I'm going to make you say Jamie Boy 3 times and then you will be mine, you know, in a sense. He says it a little bit more, you know, dignified than that, but he does. And then she's like, Jamie Boy. And he's like, you just need to say it one more time. That's all I need. She says it like real quick, like Jamie Boy. And then they have, you know, old school Hollywood, like, you know, kiss scene on the boat, like fucking like moon or sun behind him and everything like that.
Dude, Captain Morgan, when he shows up,
Oh, he's pissed.
no wig, just fucking a belt full of pistols. He's a fucking big dude too. Whoever that actor is, that's a big motherfucker.
Yeah, he's fucking burly and so on like that. And that's where like Captain Morgan has a, like when he gets out there, I think when they're in the battle and whatnot, he's like, it's so much better without the wig and all like the dandy stuff.
He's just killing people. He's like, hey, wait, he still talks like a dandy. He's like, how about you?
Yeah, well,
I'm Captain Morgan.
He's still got his 1940s voice, not his 1600s or 1700s voice or whatever it is.
Right.
But at this point, though, he really thinks still that Jamie Boy's betrayed him and whatnot. He's like, he's going to hang his ass up right here and so on like that. And he thinks that he stole Maureen O'Hara and everything like that. He's like committing all kinds of crimes. And then she actually does the thing where she's like, no, I went willingly with him. I wanted to go out on sea, you know?
Right. Yeah, she saved his ass.
Yeah. So, and then, yeah, it pretty much.
When he did kidnap her.
When he did super kidnap her. Yeah, just, you know, throw her over the shoulder, tied up. Where's she going to go? You know, what are you going to do?
But he was a gentleman. He slept in the hammock.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, he is. Because that's the whole thing about being a swashbuckler is you have to be kind of a gentleman hero in a sense, even if you are a little bit slightly dastardly.
I like too how the king, the way to get all the privateers to like kill all the pirates, all their old friends. He's like, you know what? Give them all 100 acres on Jamaica. I'll just give them the land.
Yeah, once people have some land, they'll pretty much betray anybody for that.
Right. So I thought that was interesting. I don't know. This was a good movie. This is a good watch. It's free on YouTube. There's really no fucking excuse not to watch it.
Yeah, no, it's one of those. It's a movie I bought on DVD like, I don't know, almost 10 or 15 years ago, and I remember I was like, this is a really good one. One day I'd like to podcast on this. And then lo and behold, we were talking pirates. I'm like, oh, I want to pull this one out and see how well it kind of still holds up and how much I still enjoyed it. And I'm actually glad you did, like, because that was the one thing I was wondering the whole time. I'm like, I wonder how much Josh is going to dig this. You know, is this going to be too old? You know, am I pulling out something like a little bit too like bizarre and so on? And it kind of goes to show, I still think that pirate movies in the 30s and 40s, that's like the best era of them. You know, I think they're just really
old movies for me are like hit or miss. One of my favorite movies of all time is The 7-Year Itch.
Yeah, that's a great film.
That's one of my favorite movies. The comedy in that movie is like phenomenal, and like the main character is a piece of shit.
Mm-hmm. Total.
But
send the wife and kids off, going off the, you know, there like, I'm gonna hang out at home.
Yeah. Go have fun, honey. I'm just gonna take a load off back here at the house. And he's like, I'm gonna fuck something. Something's getting fucked.
Exactly. Well, that's like the thing about it, is like all those Marilyn Monroe movies are like some like hilarious ones. Like the other one that's really good too is, have you ever seen Some Like It Hot with Tony Curtis and Jack Lemmon? That one's like, I think that movie like can rival any like modern day comedy for how funny that film is.
Right. Plus Marilyn Monroe's just fucking smoking hot.
Yeah, so it's like a triple package all in on that stuff, you know. But like, yeah, all those movies, they're fun, they're great, you know. They as I said, I feel like this is the time period too. By the time the 30s kind of hit, like movies are kind of dialed in because they spent like the 1890s, you know, 10s, 20s, getting it all kind of, you know, figuring out the process. How do you make a good story? How do you make it work well? How do you get these special effects? And then I feel like this time period, like we got it pretty well dialed in. It's a pretty well oiled machine.
Right. Yeah. I guess the ones that bug me are the ones where I basically just call them And it's funny because I guess it's what they were called when transitioned from silent films, but just the talkies where it's just a bunch of fucking dialogue.
Yeah.
And it's just boring. I can't stand it. And probably a lot of 50s movies.
Yeah, because a lot of them get like that too. I mean, there's some good noirs that can come here and there, but yeah, sometimes if they get too where there's, I mean, sometimes it's like those movies, like the action could be a little bit lacking, you know, and so on, and you just kind of have a little too much talking, and it feels more like it's almost become like a TV show, like because there's that old joke that's like in a movie you show the shootout or whatnot like that. In a TV show, you have the guys talk about the shootout. Instead, that's how you save money on the budget.
Right. And I mean, like I've talked about my disdain for like, you know, Lawrence of Arabia. I'm not a big fan of Rebel Without a Cause. I watched the movie and I was like, I don't get what all the hype's about. Another one that's like sacrilegious that makes a lot of people just shake their head at me is like, you know, how people like will just jerk off The Godfather. And I'm like, The Godfather is a good, you know, pair of movies. Not my favorite.
Yeah, that's fan. Okay. You know, I kind of get. I mean, I got a Godfather version that's a 7.5 hour long cut where they combine 1 and 2 together and they do them in chronological order, and then they put like extra deleted scenes in there, so it makes it like super long. It's supposed to be kind of like the book version in a sense, you would say, but.
Right.
Yeah, it's like I kind of get it. Like, and that one kind of does. I mean, like I love Godfather, but like I kind of get it. It is kind of like definitely overly hyped sometimes because that falls in that.
It's not a bad movie. It's just I don't know. I get bored.
Yeah, I mean, my favorite Francis Ford Coppola movie is Apocalypse Now. That's.
Oh yeah.
You know that to me is like
the Redux.
Yeah, the Redux one is that's the even better version too, because then you get the cool weird scenes in there, because that's my favorite part is the stuff that gets bizarre, but
like the Playboy bunnies.
Yeah, that one, especially when they find them and stuff, and it's all fucking messed up, and there's not really any explanation of what's going on there and why they're all just like.
It almost has the vibe of like a thriller or like a horror movie.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, and they find the dead bodies and everything like that too. And you're like, what the hell just happened here?
Honestly, when you think about that movie, the whole movie has the feeling of a horror movie from like start to finish.
Because they're going upriver and things get progressively darker and weirder and so on. And even like when they find like that French like plantation or whatnot like that, and just like how odd those people feel off comparatively to everything else you've seen so far. Like they're almost like stuck in like time at that point, you know. Yeah, I know. That's one of those movies I love so much, you know. And every single time I watch it, I get so psyched into it. I think that's what gives that movie. There is what giving my love for Vietnam War stories.
Right. I think like when it came to The Godfather, when I finally got to watch it, and I went on the kick of like mobster movies, it's just nothing could top the way Goodfellas made me laugh and happy and all the emotions of that film. Well, because it's like Goodfellas and Casino, it's like everything else can suck a dick.
Well, and I'll say sometimes that kind of happens with movies too, is if depending on what order you see them in, you know, like if you catch certain movies, like almost after seeing a bunch of other movies that kind of did it like later down the line and maybe did it better and so on like that, and then you kind of go you almost, it sounds like when you go back in time too, you almost got to kind of put yourself in that position. It's kind of like I'll use one movie for example. It's like Steve McQueen and Bullet. I think that's a really good movie, but I think it's kind of might be a hard sell to a lot of people because that movie's kind of you know, I think 60, maybe it's 68. I was gonna say 60.
It has like a 30-minute driving scene in the beginning, right?
Yeah, it's but it's only got 3 action scenes like in the entire movie. So it's like they're kind of few and far between. But like I know it like in the 60s though, a lot of that stuff is very like radical. Like you just didn't see that before. You didn't see like a dude get blasted with a shotgun and have blood squirt out everywhere and him fly against the wall. But it's like one scene, you know, and same with some other ones there. You know, and then you could kind of say, in a sense, Dirty Harry sort of took that formula and then upped the ante and so on, you know.
Right.
So if you're into old movies, yeah, the Getaway or Bullet still holds up pretty well. But like, I felt like if you threw it on trying to show somebody who, you know, hasn't seen a movie earlier than the 90s, it might be kind of a harder, you know, one to be like, see how cool Steve McQueen is in this? You know, they'll have to get into it.
I'm kind of guilty of that. My knowledge of Bullet, I think I watched the movie once. But what I do watch when I want to see something from it, I look up the car scenes
The car scenes
on like YouTube.
One of
They're
my
fucking
favorites.
yeah, it's fucking awesome.
Yeah, no, it's just way that car scene itself is totally worth it. There's no music or anything like that. It's just car sounds and everything.
Right.
You know? But
You know
yeah,
what I've been dying to watch? The original, and I just haven't gotten to it yet. The original Italian Job.
Oh, that is a good one too. I've kind of thought about that for a while as well. Because that is was that one 68, 69? It's got Michael Caine in it when he's like a boy.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, young Michael Caine.
yeah.
I've never seen it. I didn't even know there was an original. That's how fucking of a loser I am.
Well, there's a lot of those
It's like,
ones
wait.
too. There's like the original Vanishing Point. The remake has Viggo Mortensen in it though, which is kind of cool. Or like Gone in 60 Seconds has an original one and so on like that.
Right.
There's quite a few of those ones. And a lot of times, a lot of those old car movies of the 60s and 70s are always fun, no matter what. Even if it's just to see cool cars just driving by and so on like that. It doesn't have to be a whole lot.
That's some of the best parts of it.
Yeah, real cars doing real things and so on. Or like some of my favorites, like you get of course all the Burt Reynolds ones, but like White Lightning and Gator.
Right. Old Burt.
Yeah.
Poor Burt.
Old Burt, but yeah, no, I think Black Swan is or the Black Swan, if you want to be specific, because they'll try to correct Natalie Portman's movie. Which is fun in a completely different way. But yeah, I think this one's I think it's a great fucking pirate film. The action in it's good. The storyline's cool. It's got your real life characters like Captain Morgan, all that stuff, and just that area of Jamaica. I think is such an interesting time period too.
Right. Whatever her name is, O'Hara. She's fucking hot.
Maureen. Yeah, Maureen O'Hara.
Yeah.
As I said, yeah, she's in all like those kind of big movies of the time period. Even with Errol Flynn, John Wayne, and all that kind of stuff.
Which John Wayne movie was she in?
She's in The Quiet Man. She's also in she's in like 3 or 4 of them, I want to say.
I knew she looked familiar, and I was like, oh, okay.
See if I can pull up just a couple big ones that I know she's in the old Sinbad as well too. Of course, she also plays the mom in The Parent Trap, the original one.
Oh, really?
Rio Grande. She's in that one with John Wayne. That's
okay.
the big one.
That's the big one. That's that's a huge film.
And then she's in McClintock with him, the Wings of Eagles.
Okay, so that's how I know her. I've seen McClintock like way too many times.
Yeah, so she's in that, and then she's in
where they all fight in the fucking mud pit.
Yes, I forgot about that.
Pretty sure that's McClintock.
I think so. So, yeah, she's in.
He tells her son, like, sometimes I gotta spank your mom so she knows I love her. Like, what? What's going on?
Yeah, that's literally the movie poster too, actually.
What's the movie poster? Him spanking her?
Yeah, it's literally just Maureen O'Hara laying across John Wayne's lap as he's sitting on like a stump, and he's got his hand up like he's gonna spank her.
Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, that's the one. But,
that's one of those scenes where I watched it as a kid with my parents, and I was just like, what the fuck?
What the hell's going on here? Yeah. But
because she looks at him, she's like, oh, he loves me. Whack.
In like the original appearance of Catwoman in the Batman comics, like whatever 42 or whatever, probably the same year as this. Batman, when he captures her at the very end, she's all like on like I was gonna say like a yacht or something. She's stealing jewels, of course, or something like that. And then like when Batman's gonna take her in the jail, he literally looks at her and goes, he's like, okay, be calm now or pop a spank. I laughed so hard when I saw that.
Oh, that's fucking funny.
Just seeing Batman say that too just tops it off. But yeah, this movie's cool.
Oh, Bruce.
If you want to track down a cool old school pirate movie and so on like that, yeah, it to me, I feel like it fits really high up there. I don't know. I'd rank it pretty high in like what movies I like of pirate days.
Oh yeah, hey, for somebody who genuinely like usually doesn't like old movies, I liked it.
Yeah, see, there we go. That goes to show. It's like, cool, it worked out. Because as I said, I was so like, I wasn't too sure when I thought about it the whole time. I'm like, yeah, I wonder how well he's going to like it. Because, like, that's always the tough thing about old movies is, like, it's like, one of the ones you got to kind of get into it and so on like that. But sometimes once you cross that barrier, and you find the right ones and so on like that, you go, oh, shit, these ones are really good. This,
Well, hey, if it's funny, it's funny. And if the action's good, the action's good. It doesn't matter the time period.
Yeah,
and this movie has some fucking great comedy. Like Jamie Boy is hilarious.
Yeah,
he's such a fucking like I don't know. He's a madman. He's crazy.
Yeah, no, like that's the thing. That's why I think why I like those movies. Like it starts off and you're already busting up laughing just because these pirates just being pirates in a sense, and that in itself is just hilarious.
Right.
As they storm this fucking like big old mansion and whatnot like that, and just take everything that's not nailed down, pretty much.
Right. It
was
literally the Pirates of the Caribbean ride.
Just over their shoulders, just walking out like, "Yep, I got me one."
And tying them up, pouring wine on them, like, "Have a drink, babe."
And I love how they're really like, I'm gonna get to this later. There's other stuff that I found that was more exciting. Just lay here on the beach as like I enjoy my wine and play with my coins and all the other stuff.
Right.
That I got.
The pirate putting on like loads of like jewels and pearls just over and over again. He's just wearing like a fucking like I don't know like 50 pounds of jewelry.
Yeah, he got his weight vest on practically.
Yeah.
Oh no, yeah. As I say, it's just funny the whole way through, and since it's kind of a nice that nice short length of like an hour and 45 minutes, it's like it plays well too. Like doesn't drag on or anything, but
No, it doesn't. That's the best part. It doesn't drag on. It just fucking flows right through.
Yeah, it's just solid the whole way through. But Black Swan, 1942. Check this bad boy out. Good old times in classic vintage cinema. Other than that, you can always go to YouTube and Spotify to check out more of Old Man Orange podcasts. I'm Spencer Scott Holmes.
And Josh.
And we'll see you some other time.